This week on Retirement Approved, AI and the AI bubble. Are we in one? And what do we need to know? Let's have that conversation right here on the program. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome into Retirement Approved with Matt and Steve Paul. And this week, guys, we might as well tackle it. You're getting a lot of questions about the AI bubble. Is it? What's going on? All that good stuff. So let's break it down. Matt, how you doing this week?
Doing good. Can't complain.
Yeah. Steve, my friend, you and I were chatting offline. How's things going with you? Everything going well?
Everything's great. It was a fun weekend for me. I got to go and watch my little one play down at LCA Arena. So it was very cool. They didn't win. They weren't able to pull out a win, but hopefully they created a memory that lasts forever.
That's awesome. No, yeah, I love the little guys playing hockey. That's some good stuff. So they had themselves a good time. They got a little sugar high apparently, and then they lost their energy. So that's what
we
happens.
were worried. We were worried about that, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, they were out there cheering like crazy for the Wings. By the time their game started, I mean, there wasn't much energy in that locker room.
Well, I'm going to use that as a segue, Matt, to throw it back to you. Is that what's going on in the markets? Because we've had some nice gains here, but there's a lot of AI conversation. So take it away, my friend.
A sugar high is a good way to put it. Everyone's in euphoria right now. 2023, we had a 20% year in the market. 2024, up 20%. And we're closing in on 20% here in 2025 already. Historic run in the market. And that means everyone's asking the question, is this an AI bubble? And literally, everyone is asking that question. If you look at this chart from Google Trends,
everyone's Googling.
so Google Trends for AI bubble isn't a bubble, but we're going to tackle the question if we expect the market to come crashing down here, because that's the concern on everyone's mind. But first, we kind of need to define what a bubble is.
Okay,
we're getting a lot of emails right now on Nvidia. Is it in bubble territory? And what's kind of funny is you look at the last historic bubble there, the meme stock mania. I don't think I got one email. Did you get one email on GameStop, on AMC?
Maybe one.
It was only emails asking, should we buy this? We heard from our niece, our nephew, our grandson, our neighbor that this just continues to go up. No reason behind it, just all hype. It continues to go up. Not one time did we get, hey, is that in bubble territory? But we're getting it all the time with AI. A lot of concern there.
It may be because the meme stock was so obviously a bubble. It's like the monkey JPEGs from a few years ago too that just had no value to them.
True.
But
yeah.
But again, you get that FOMO, and that's what we were saying. A lot of our clients, a lot of educated investors were asking, I should buy a little bit of this, right? It just continues to go up.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the questions right now are because our clients lived through the .com bubble.
Yeah,
sure. And that was a devastating tech bubble in 2000, and this is AI is technology at this point. But the .com bubble was essentially overbuilding the internet infrastructure. We built all this internet. They call it dark fiber. These lines were only 2.7% used at the time because there was not much demand for internet. I don't really remember what we were even doing on the internet when 2000 happened. We were chatting online.
You got mail and a little chat in here.
Yeah. And you look at a lot of those companies back from the .com bubble. I mean, there were expectations of growth, what they could possibly be, a lot of hype behind them, but that was it. There wasn't really a ton of demand.
It was more registering names, I think, just to get a .com than anything else.
Exactly. Yeah. So just a lot of hype. You look at the fundamentals. I mean, it just weren't there. I mean, with Nvidia, it's a different story.
It does feel similar though, Steve. I mean, to people's points and Matt's point though, it does feel like, this feels very .com-ish.
Yes, but then you look at the demand with Nvidia.
Okay,
it's there. I mean, and you could say, well, I mean, eventually you could see, other chip makers come into the mix and pull away market share from them. Yeah, that's a concern. You could see that in the future, but they're so far ahead of their competition at this point. Now you could say there could be a disruptor, a new technology that comes in. Yeah, but again, I don't see that being a concern for at least 2, 3, 4 years. And I really don't think it's much of a concern now. I mean, Matt talked about it in his blog post. I think the biggest concern is possibly a major efficiency leap where the chips just aren't needed as much as they are right now.
We kind of saw that earlier this year with DeepSeek, that hiccup in the market. Yep.
Okay.
But kind of just going back to the .com era real quick, I just want to put this one to bed because this is the one that our clients are saying we lived through this already. We don't want it again. .com was a demand problem. There wasn't enough demand for internet usage at that point. We built out this wonderful infrastructure. So we like to call that, we had a lot of plumbing, a lot of pipes, but no water to flow through them.
Yeah.
This AI thing is the opposite of that. We've got massive supply issues. We have engines. So think of these GPUs as like the steam engine. We have engines, but we don't have fuel to power them. Literally, data centers have GPUs in them that aren't being used. So I want to say there's like 2% across the board in data centers that there's supply for at this point, because I think it was, what was it, the Microsoft CEO?
Yeah, Microsoft CEO came in and said there's not enough data centers for the GPUs they already have.
So that you're talking about power consumption.
Unbelievable.
You're talking about power consumption and actual like computers in places, correct? Just to kind of define that.
Yeah, so these hyperscale data centers, that's what's running AI.
Yeah.
So Nvidia's biggest customers are the Magnificent Seven, essentially, excluding themselves.
Right.
And they're selling all these GPUs. Demand is through the roof. Now, the one concern is, let's say Meta or a Microsoft decides, hey, we're going to pull back on this AI race because it's just not profitable. That's where we could see this bubble start to deflate, or along, like Steve said, efficiency leaps in AI where there's not as much demand.
Or they could go the other way. They could go in harder. You just don't know. I mean, the demand for these chips is going up. It's not going down right now. So we don't know how this plays out. And again, there could be efficiency leaps, but we just kind of wait and see. That's why I don't think they're in bubble territory quite yet. I mean, I've seen multiple comparisons, Nvidia to pets.com. That's the most absurd thing I've ever seen. It's outrageous.
Yeah. So that's why I likened in the blog post, if you go to rwpaul.com, check out the blog I wrote, I likened it to more like the railroad mania. So on the bubble slide, we saw railroad mania in 1846. That was in Britain. Then, of course, railroads started making their way over here, and the U.S. started going railroad crazy, and 63% of the U.S. market cap in 1881 was railroad stocks. And that's what I kind of liken Nvidia to right now. But I don't necessarily see that instant fall off like happened with railroads. They were overbuilt and took a while, just like the internet, the .com bubble. It was overbuilt. Could AI be being overbuilt? That is definitely a concern. That's on our radar. But if we look at the 200 years of stock market history, this is from a website called Visual Capitalist. You can see that big blue area. That's the railroad bubble in the United States of America in 1881.
Wow.
63% was transports. And you can see each year after that blue area gets smaller and smaller and smaller till it's almost gone. And in fact, we don't even consider transportation a sector anymore. That's just rolled up into industrials. And then one other thing to highlight is the blue area in the bottom right. That's the .com bubble. You see information tech, communications really pop. And one of those companies was the name Cisco. And they are still under their valuation, their stock price from the year 2000. That's how crazy that bubble got. And if you were to value Nvidia at their price to earnings ratio, you'd probably be looking at a $15 trillion company at this point. So we're definitely overbought, frothy, but bubble territory. We're not ready to say bubble quite yet, like our old pal Michael Berry is saying these days.
Yeah, I agree with that, but he's not wrong when he says the market's very concentrated. It is, and I am getting slightly nervous. There's some things to be bullish about going into 2026. But what we do here is we manage retiree and pre-retirees money. So we don't have the long time horizon, and we start to see this type of concentration 40 plus when you're looking at the top 9 positions in the S&P. There's some concern there, and we still want to own those positions. But what we've been doing, and those of you in our moderate growth model, and even in our aggressive growth, have seen us go in and start trimming these positions. And I think that's what smart money is doing at this point, just locking in some of these gains. Matt and I were talking about it before the show. We're just seeing out of our clients so much risk complacency right now. We've had all these years of great returns. You're not even thinking about what it feels like if the market were to pull back 15, 20%. You're just in a state of euphoria right now. It's like the exact opposite of 2008 when I got into this. Exact opposite. I've never seen anything like it in my career.
Wow.
So most of our meetings with clients now, we're just talking about how we're going in and we're locking in some of these gains. We're looking at different sectors and asset classes, ones that we feel are undervalued, and maybe even adding some buffered ETFs like we did in our moderate growth. If you want to talk about some of the changes that we made there, that'd be great.
For sure. Yeah. So our clients probably noticed a handful of significant trades last week, as a matter of fact. So in our moderate growth portfolio, we added some buffered ETFs. We got rid of the JP Morgan covered call strategies, which correlate a little bit more to the downside. Not a significant move. We're talking 5% of that strategy, but only 60% of that strategy is in equities. So nearly 10% of the equities are buffered to the downside. And then we also tilted more towards value. And you'll see that across all our models. So the individual stock models we run, we've got aggressive growth, we've got strategic equity. Both of those we sold off the growthier position. So that is going to be the tech. So in our strategic equity, which is actually beating the market with significantly less risk, we sold out of Oracle, we sold out of Intel. Reason being they just didn't have the dividend anymore to support being in that model. We wanted to up the yield to 3.5%. And then in aggressive growth, same thing, with just triggering a rebalance, saying, hey, let's get out of some of these growthier positions. Didn't necessarily add value, but we added some beaten down stocks that we like as a hold, at least for the next 1 to 2 years.
And just because we go in and we trim a position doesn't mean we don't like it anymore. So, I mean, you take Coinbase, for example, it was a 4% position. Then we saw it go to 6, then 7, then 8. Beppin and I started saying, hey, Matt, we need to trim this. And he said, no, let it keep going. Then we got him to 9. It's like, Matt, we're trimming this position. We still like Coinbase long term, but we don't want a 9% allocation or aggressive growth to one stock. That just brings into play individual stock risks that we don't want.
Right. So we call those guardrails. We try to not let a single stock become more than 5% of the model. And sure, we'll let them run 6, 7, 8. 9 is definitely stretching it. But in our aggressive growth model, that's outperforming the S&P by 5-6% at this point, while being underweight these stocks right here that you're seeing. We're underweight Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. We don't even have Broadcom in that model. Google is probably slightly overweight at this point, but the point being is our security selection has been so strong otherwise, by adding some satellite names that pair with Nvidia. Vertiv, for instance, that does the cooling of the data centers. Micron, that does the memory within the chips. And then think of the Chinese equities in your model, which might make our clients cringe a little bit, but Alibaba and Tencent are up 50 to 100%. That's a nice way to get AI exposure, but stay diversified.
I have to add in too that our GDP 100 is beating the S&P 500 by 50 basis points. It kind of has to do with maybe emerging markets outperforming. I don't know. I think that was someone's prediction. We did the prediction show, which we're gonna have to do that end of the year, talk about our predictions and who won that. But I think somebody said emerging markets would outperform.
That will be our next episode. Yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head there. So we'll run through what we had predicted there. But one interesting chart, this one's a couple years old now, is just showing the sprint to 1 million users. So I just want to give clients an idea of, this is the 4 most expensive words in the English language are this time it's different. But this time it's a little different. With ChatGPT, they were able to acquire 1 million users in 5 days, compared to Netflix that took 3.5 years. But they were mailing DVDs back then. But even look at Facebook, 10 months. So the network effects are definitely there to handle this. And that's exactly why we're seeing Nvidia become a $5 trillion company now. Absolutely unheard of.
I bet a lot of our clients are blown away by that stat, 5 days, because you ask the majority of our clients, do you use, any of the LLMs, use Grok, ChatGPT? I don't think I've had one client say, yeah, I'm messing with those, seeing what they could do. But you go to a college campus, there isn't one student there that isn't using Chat or Grok.
I would even say, yeah, even all the way, not just college, but I mean, young professionals, even middle age. I know everybody I know uses it, so you get maybe to 50 up, maybe then it starts to taper off.
Absolutely. I think, everyone under the age of 50 is pretty much has used it in some way at this point.
But even kind of elaborating on that, I like to say every company in the S&P 500 is using it as well. So every large company at this point is
Great point.
an AI company in some regard. And we were joking about it the other day, Beppin and I, just kind of looking at the use cases of AI. And we were just trying to come up with a company that you wouldn't think would use AI. So we threw in waste management AI. Garbage company. How are they using AI? But turns out they're really incorporating it in the sorting facilities and all this. And it's like,
Okay.
my God. So every company out there is using AI, and that's exactly why we're seeing Nvidia at 5 trillion.
Wow.
Literally bigger than sectors of the S&P. If you add up the big three here in Detroit and then throw in Tesla and double it, you're not the size of Nvidia at this point, as you
Wow.
can see on that chart.
And those are the biggest customers too. So, I mean, you look at the chart to the right here, and it's like these other trillion-dollar companies are their biggest customers. So you say, what's the difference between Nvidia and AI and the dot-com bubble? This right here. That's why there's just not as much concern. Again, there's risk, and that's why we went in and we've trimmed positions. But bubble territory, I don't think we're there quite yet. We could be there in a couple of years, but at this point, no. And we've been getting asked this question. I mean, it started at 2 trillion. Nvidia's at 2 trillion. Bubble territory? No. 3 trillion? No. 4 trillion? No. Now we're at 5 trillion. No. I know a guy that said he thinks it might go to 10 trillion within the next couple of years. I might be looking at him right now.
Yeah,
I did say that actually. So yes,
we'll make some predictions next episode then. But the point being, when Nvidia hit 2 trillion, guess what we were doing in our models? We were trimming it. And sure, if we let it ran, in hindsight, that would have been the move. But we're always managing risk here, and we're okay to sacrifice some long-term growth for risk, because that's more important.
Well, Matt, let me ask you about that, because as the consumer advocate, if you will, on the show here, I mean, that's the point, right? Because if you're all after top gains for everything, you got to accept top risk, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole point. You want to pull back at times, even, do you sometimes lose out? Sure. But you also aren't losing if things go south.
Right. And that's where the S&P 500 being the top 10 positions at 40+%, growing every day, it seems, that's making us feel a little uneasy. And that's why we're definitely looking to diversify with international equities, even tilting towards value that hasn't ran as hard, small caps, and so on.
Well, we have a lot of clients too. It's their top two goals are capital preservation and income. They're in retirement. I mean, growth is still a concern, but it's not the top concern at this point. It's not the top goal. If you're 25 years old and you're watching this, I mean, you can own the S&P 500. You can take that type of risk. You have the time horizon. You're not as concerned about income, especially if we're talking about your 401k that's just continuing to grow. You're not touching that for a long time. But for our clients, it's a lot different. The goals, the time horizon. So
well,
need to be a lot.
Let me split that difference for you, right? So you're talking, your clients versus 25-year-olds. What about somebody 45 to 52, right? We're in that window where we're like, hey, do we continue to take risk, or do we start to peel back?
For sure. And that it gets trickier the older you get, because then you need to really start managing risk. Still in that 30, 40 area, you're probably okay with an equity dominated portfolio. If AI is creeping up in that 40% range on the S&P, probably going to be okay. You might take it on the teeth if this bubble pops. But that's a risk that you're okay with taking. As long as you're a long-term investor, you're probably all right. But still, it makes sense to stay diversified and own international equities. They've outperformed, like Steve said, even with the crazy run in Nvidia. You'd be better off in international and emerging markets this last year. Before that, not so much, but that's the importance of diversification.
Okay. Well, the time horizon's still there. Like you said, I mean, you're looking at 15, 20 years if you're 45 years old until retirement, and you're DCAing in. So your dollar cost averaging in. I mean, so if you do see any dip like that, just continue to buy throughout that dip. I mean, look at 2008. If you just stayed the course and you bought while the market was down, you were just fine, Okay. So you need to be able to take that type of risk and know, hey, I'm going to continue working and I'm going to DCA through that period of time. But I think once you get, close to 5 years out, that's when the changes are to be made, especially if we've seen a run like this. Okay. So we've seen incredible growth over the last 5 years. If you're 5 years out now, that's when you want to start looking at dialing back on the equity exposure and start building out that retirement plan.
Yeah, and to wrap it up here, this is an innovation cycle. So just like anything, whether it's the .com or all the way back to railroads, we've got a new technology emerging. It's gonna be speculation. There's gonna be some overbuilding before true real world adoption, but we're already seeing adoption with ChatGPT. But kind of how is it going to be monetized? Is it just going to be subscription fees? Are they going to be selling your data like Facebook and
what's this going to look like 20 years from now? Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're all going to have robot assistants that do our dishes, according to Elon. And if you commit a crime, you're just going to have a robot follow you around and not go to jail and make sure you don't commit crimes. But
it's kind of wild to think that far out, though, because I mean, you look back to like 99, 2000 when we started with AOL, and it was like us getting yelled at by mom, coming in, hey, you're clogging up the phone line. The phone's off the hook again. What are you chatting with your friends on AOL and Instant Messenger? And you look at where we're at right now, how far that's progressed in 20, 25 years. So,
yeah. And as exciting as it is right now, there will be a shakeout, whether it's this year, 2027, perhaps when it's open AI IPOs at $1 trillion and we see how unprofitable they are. But eventually the technology will fulfill its promise. And I think we're already kind of sort of there. Like I talked about, the AI is working its way into every company. We use it here.
Mm-hmm. This is just the beginning. Yeah. This is kind of like the AOL moment in a way.
Yep. Maybe it's what it felt like as to bring it back to a Metro Detroit moment. Maybe it's what it felt like when the car was first rolling off the lines, right? Take it all the way back to the assembly line.
No, that's a better analogy. I need to rewrite my blog now.
you just gotta bring me in, Matt. I just need to be on consultation fee here, my friend.
Where were you last week when I was talking about AI at 1 a.m, learning about railroads?
Bring it back right home to the assembly line and Mr. Ford there. So look, if you want to check out that blog, right, go to retirementapproved.com or rwpaul.com. We'll have a link to both the websites in the description of the show. So don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and of course right here on YouTube to catch new episodes when they come out. And guys, we're going to do a prediction show, right? So we should do one to go into next year. We'll do that next month to kind of close out the year. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan, and we'll see who won, me versus Steve.
Wow. We'll have some wild predictions ready, so it should be a fun one.
Well, he was already tooting his horn this episode, so we'll see what happens next week here on Retirement Approved. Thanks for hanging out with us. Again, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and all that good stuff so you catch new episodes when they come out. And if you need some help before you take any action, please reach out to the team at rwpaul.com. Click the links below. We'll see you next time.
Retirement Approved is brought to you by Richard W. Paul & Associates, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Throughout the presentation, we may generally discuss different financial vehicles. However, nothing we say should be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle, nor should it be used to make decisions today about your investments or insurance. For full disclosures, check the show notes of today's episode.